Senator Housakis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the government leader in the Senate, and it's a follow-up question to the one put forward by the leader of the official opposition in the Senate in regards to Vice Admiral Norman. In your response to the question by Senator Smith, you stated, as you've done so many times in this chamber, that the police force, our national police force, and the criminal prosecutor's office in this country are arm's length from the government. Yet it doesn't take away from the fact that the Prime Minister of Canada, number of weeks and months prior to the charges being laid, forecasted that those charges would be laid. So, government leader, unless the Prime Minister of Canada has developed Nostradamus type of capacity to call the future here and predict the future, or if that's not the case and he hasn't developed those skills, is it a possibility that we have to worry about the integrity of our national police force and the criminal prosecutor's office? How could you explain to this chamber that the Prime Minister of Canada had the capacity to forecast and predict weeks and months in advance that charges would be coming forward against Vice Admiral Norman?
Senator Harder.
I can confirm that the capacity of Nostradamus is not available to the Prime Minister, that the Prime Minister respects the independence of the prosecution service, always has, and certainly continues to respect that independence. And that independence is exactly what was at play in the decisions around both charging of and staying the charges against Vice Admiral Norman.
Housakis.
Government leader, with all due respect, the government keeps claiming to respect the arm's length process of the criminal prosecutor's office and our police force, yet we've seen over the last few months testimony of senior government officials, including the clerk of the Privy Council, including the former principal secretary of the Prime Minister, including the former Minister of Justice, that in a DPA request on the part of SNC-Lavalin, there was an attempt to interfere. And now we have another case of a serious case, a sad case as far as Canadians are concerned, of a Vice Admiral who the Prime Minister predicted months in advance that our police force in this country and our criminal prosecutor's office would be coming forward with charges. That is unheard of and unprecedented. I don't think ever in my time in Parliament have I seen a member of the Cabinet or the Prime Minister be able to predict charges coming forward against a citizen of this country. And you refuse to answer the question, as has the government, how could he have possibly have known?
Senator Harder.
If there is a question there, let me simply say that in the case of the former Minister of Justice and the allusion to the discussions that were obviously and admittedly held with the former Minister of Justice, that officials clearly did engage with the Minister of Justice, but by her own admission and certainly by the testimony of the National Prosecution Service, there was no attempt to influence or otherwise interfere with the course of the independence of the prosecution service. So it's completely inappropriate to extrapolate from conversations with the former Minister of Justice, in one case, inappropriate interference with the prosecution service, in another case where the prosecution service itself has recognized that it was their decision, independently taken without any reference to any political personality, to both engage in the prosecution and to ultimately decide to stay the prosecution. And I think we should all, as Canadians, take heart that our independent prosecution service is alive and well.
Senator Wallace.